Jake thought he knew everything about masturbation, until his body started betraying him. First it was the fatigue, then the embarrassing moments when he needed performance and couldn't. What he didn't realize, he was making 3 critical mistakes, same ones millions of men make daily. And if you're doing them too, your body will shut down. Here's what went wrong, and how to fix it. Jake never questioned his habits. Masturbation was normal, right? But after years of quick, daily sessions, his energy dropped. Workouts felt harder. Mornings dragged. Worst of all, when he finally got with Lisa, his body didn't respond. Maybe stress, he lied to himself. But deep down he knew something was off. Then, a late-night Google search led him to Dr. Carter, a urologist who dropped the truth. Your technique is sabotaging you. Jake sat in Dr. Carter's office, gripping the armrests as the urologist flipped through his file. You're not broken, the doctor said. But your habits are working against your body's natural wiring. He leaned forward. Masturbation isn't the problem. It's how you're doing it. Jake's face burned. He'd never thought about how, only that it felt good in the moment. Dr. Carter explained the first mistake: speed over sensitivity. Most men, he said, rush to finish, training their bodies to respond only to intense, fast friction, not the slower, subtler touch of real intimacy. Your brain rewires itself, the doctor warned. Eventually, anything less than a death grip feels like nothing. Jake's stomach dropped. He remembered Lisa's frustrated sigh when he'd asked her to go harder. Dr. Carter continued. Second mistake, ignoring recovery. The body needs time to rebuild neurotransmitters like dopamine and oxytocin. But daily sessions drain Jake's reserves, leaving him lethargic and numb. And the third mistake? Jake asked. The doctor paused. You're treating it like a chore, not a practice. Masturbation, he explained, should be mindful, a way to understand your body, not just a stress relief button. Jake left the office dazed, replaying every lazy, hurried session in his head. For the first time he wondered, what if I've been doing this all wrong? Jake decided to test Dr. Carter's advice. No half measures. He deleted his usual inspiration folders, set a strict schedule, and approached his next session like a scientist observing an experiment. The first week was torture. Slowing down felt unnatural, like trying to sip a scalding coffee instead of gulping it. His mind wandered to old habits, but he resisted, focusing instead on breathing and sensation, rather than racing toward a finish line. By day 10, something shifted. He noticed textures he'd never paid attention to. The warmth of his own touch, the way his pulse responded to gentle pressure rather than brute force. It was frustratingly slow, but for the first time, he wasn't left feeling drained afterward. Meanwhile, his energy levels began creeping up. Mornings weren't a battle against exhaustion, and the brain fog that had haunted him for months started lifting. Then came the real test, a date with Lisa. Normally, he'd have pre-gamed with a quick session to last longer. But this time, he went in cold. To his shock, his body responded effortlessly. No awkward pauses, no begging his nerves to cooperate. Afterward, Lisa smirked and said, "Who are you and what have you done with Jake?" He laughed, but his mind was racing. Was it really this simple? The answer, he realized, wasn't just about technique, it was about treating his body as something to understand, not just use. Just when Jake thought he had it all figured out, his old demons crept back in. A stressful week at work left him craving the instant relief of his former routine. The mindless, frantic sessions that used to numb his anxiety. One slip-up turned into 2, then 3. By the end of the week, the fatigue returned like an unwelcome ghost, and worse, his body started reverting to its old numbness. During another intimate moment with Lisa, he froze up again, that familiar panic rising in his chest. This time, though, he recognized the pattern. It wasn't just about technique, it was about why he was doing it in the first place. Dr. Carter had warned him, if you're using masturbation as an escape hatch for stress, you're training your brain to associate pleasure with avoidance, not connection. Jake realized he'd been using his body like a stress relief toy instead of listening to it. The next morning, he dug deeper into the doctor's notes and stumbled on a term he'd glossed over before: dopamine dysregulation. Turns out, chasing quick highs had dulled his ability to enjoy subtle pleasures. Everything from food to conversation felt flatter when he was stuck in that cycle. But the scariest revelation? This wasn't just about sex. His entire reward system was wired for instant gratification, leaving him impatient with everything: work, relationships, even his own progress. He thought he'd fixed the problem, but the real battle was just beginning. The question wasn't, how do I perform better? But, how do I rewire my brain to actually enjoy life again? Jake sat on his bedroom floor. Dr. Carter's notes spread out around him like a detective's case files. The urologist had scribbled one phrase that kept jumping out. Neurons that fire together wire together. It sounded like scientific jargon at first, but the meaning hit him hard. Every time he chose quick gratification over real connection, he was literally rewiring his brain for dissatisfaction. Determined to break the cycle, Jake designed a radical 21-day reset plan. Mornings began with ice-cold showers to rebuild his tolerance for discomfort. He deleted all social media apps, forcing himself to sit with boredom instead of chasing dopamine hits. The hardest part? The 90-second rule. When cravings hit, he had to wait a full minute and a half before acting, long enough for the initial urge to pass. At first, his body rebelled like an addict in withdrawal. Day 3 found him pacing his apartment, palms sweating, convincing himself just one quick session wouldn't hurt. But when he resisted, something remarkable happened. By day 7, the cravings lessened. By day 14, he noticed sunlight felt warmer, meals tasted richer, and Lisa's laugh sent actual chills down his spine. During their next date night, Jake found himself genuinely present instead of mentally rehearsing bedroom performance. When Lisa reached for his hand across the table, the simple touch electrified him in ways no marathon porn session ever had. But just as he started celebrating, life threw another curveball: a business trip that would test his new resolve in unfamiliar hotel rooms with nothing but loneliness and pay-per-view temptation. The hotel room smelled like antiseptic and loneliness, exactly the kind of place where old habits came crawling back. Jake tossed his suitcase on the bed and immediately noticed the strategically placed remote control, its pay-per-view buttons gleaming under the dim lamps. His fingers twitched with muscle memory. One look wouldn't hurt, the voice in his head whispered. He grabbed the remote, thumb hovering over the power button when his phone buzzed. A text from Lisa. "Miss you. This week's going to drag without our Wednesday movie nights." The message hit him like a bucket of cold water. He realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about resisting temptation. The real challenge was facing the emptiness he'd been numbing all these years. That first night, Jake lay awake staring at the ceiling, noticing for the first time how his heart pounded not from arousal, but from some deeper, gnawing void. He tried Dr. Carter's body scan technique, starting from his toes, methodically noticing each body part, without judgment. By the time he reached his chest, unexpected tears welled up. All those years of rushing to finish, he'd been running from this exact feeling, the quiet ache of being alone with himself. The next morning, instead of his usual routine, he wandered the unfamiliar city, actually noticing the way the morning light hit the skyscrapers, how the coffee tasted different here. When a pretty barista smiled at him, the old Jake would have fantasized. The new Jake simply enjoyed the moment before letting it pass. That night, exhausted from walking miles through the city, he collapsed into bed and slept deeper than he had in years. No late-night sessions, no shame spiral, just peace. But back home waited the ultimate test: Lisa, and whether these changes would hold when real intimacy was on the table. The moment Lisa opened her apartment door, Jake felt it, that familiar electric charge between them, but different now, sharper somehow. She pulled him inside, her hands already exploring, but instead of losing himself in the moment, Jake became hyper-aware of every sensation: the warmth of her palms through his shirt, the citrusy scent of her shampoo, the way her breath hitched when he traced her collarbone. For the first time in years, he wasn't mentally narrating his performance or worrying about stamina. He was just present. Then midway through, Lisa suddenly stopped. "You're different," she whispered, searching his face. "You're actually here." Jake wanted to laugh. After all the scientific terms and 90-second rules, the biggest compliment boiled down to simply showing up. But later, as they lay tangled in sheets, Lisa's fingers tracing idle circles on his chest, she asked the question that sent ice down his spine. "So, was this just some sex experiment for you?" Jake opened his mouth to defend himself, then paused. The truth was messy. Yes, he'd started this journey to fix his performance issues, but somewhere along the way it had morphed into something deeper. A reckoning with how he'd numbed himself to life itself. As he struggled to explain, Lisa sat up, her eyes glinting with an idea. "Prove it," she challenged. "Take me on a real date tomorrow, no phones, no agenda. Let's see if this new Jake can handle boring old reality." The gauntlet was thrown. Jake realized with a jolt that his transformation meant nothing if it only existed behind closed doors. Tomorrow wouldn't be about resisting temptation. It would be about discovering whether he could truly live in the slow, unscripted moments that used to send him running to quick fixes. The date started awkwardly. No phones, no distractions, just Jake and Lisa at a park bench, watching ducks paddle in circles. At first, Jake fidgeted, his brain screaming for stimulation. But then something shifted. He noticed how Lisa's nose scrunched when she laughed at a clumsy duckling. The way the breeze carried the scent of fresh-cut grass. The comfortable silence between them that no longer felt empty, but peaceful. Later, over greasy diner fries, Lisa squeezed his hand. "This is what I've wanted all along," she admitted. "Not just the bedroom stuff, you actually here." That's when it hit Jake. The flaccidity, the numbness, they were never the real problem. They were just symptoms of a life spent chasing highs while missing the actual point of being alive. Moral lesson: masturbation isn't the enemy. Mindlessness is. When we treat our bodies like machines, rushing to finish, using pleasure as an escape, we train ourselves to need intensity just to feel anything at all. True satisfaction comes from presence. Slowing down, noticing subtleties, and rewiring your brain to find joy in real connection. With others and with yourself. The body always speaks. The question is whether you're listening.